Hi, Facebook. So I was just talking to a student in the Netherlands. I sometimes do these digital privates, and she had taken my 30-hour restorative training. And she asked me a really great question that people ask so often. So I thought I'd talk about it here. How do you get more people to come to your restorative class? This is, we're in a funny new frontier where a lot of people know what yoga is, and that often means movement and sweating and workout, but restorative yoga is on the fringe, on the edge. Hi, Jen. So what kind of ways, what the student was asking me, what kind of ways can we describe this work? Can we offer meet the students where they are to attract them to come taste the spinach? Because we think they're going to love it, but it sounds maybe a little bit off-putting. So my first tip, I have 3 tips for you. My first tip is to combine restorative with other things. Now, this is not, I don't mean mixing it and muddying it with other things, but I mean talking about on your schedule, making a class that's like work hard, rest deeply, flow, stop. Like whatever way you want to kind of title it, the idea is that you do a flow, sweaty movement class. Maybe if you have a 90-minute class, you give them 1 hour of movement and then really strictly 30 minutes of restorative. So 30 minutes of restorative for me is basically just a big juicy shavasana. So, hey lady, hi Lynn. So that to me, and this is what I don't mean. I see yin restorative on schedules everywhere. And when I travel, I try to take any restorative class I can get my hands on to kind of test the waters and see what creative, wonderful things everyone is coming up with. Ooh, putting my phone on silent. But what I don't mean in combining restorative is to say, like, let's say yin is red and restorative is blue. When I go to these yin restorative classes, what I feel people are teaching, what I feel in my body is they're giving us 90 minutes of purple. Like a mushy, yin-y restorative. Have you guys experienced that? Put in the comments if you've had that experience. So I think it's a disservice to both yin and restorative. I would just do, 45 minutes of one and 45 minutes of the other, or however you want to combine it. So that's my tip number 1. Mix it with other things, especially if you're launching it or bringing it to a studio, restorative coming new to your studio. You can kind of slip the spinach in with the pizza so that they begin to taste it without the fear maybe of a 90-minute of a new style. Okay, tip number 2. I like to meet the student when I describe what restorative is. Meet the student where they are in terms of something that they already know. So for example, a lot of students already know the concept of meditation, or they've encountered that. Even meditation is growing in popularity. People want to learn to meditate. So sometimes I talk about restorative yoga as being meditation with training wheels, which are those little wheels on the back of a bicycle for children to learn how to ride a bike. So restorative yoga is a kind of bodyfulness as opposed to mindfulness. It's a way where we make the body really comfortable and the mind cannot resist the relaxation. So in terms of talking to new students who are considering coming to a restorative class at a studio, let's say I was a studio owner, I might describe it as in relationship to meditation. Does that make sense to you guys? Let me know in the comments. It's a little bit sneaky, but it's an analogy. It's telling them, it's putting it in a context. It's restorative, it's a meditation with training wheels. So it helps us begin to approach a meditative state of the mind, but we use the body and the nervous system and the triggers of relaxation to begin to get ourselves there. Okay, so my tip number 3, and then I want to hear in the comments from those of you who are with me live or anyone who's watching this later. I want to hear if you have other tips. You can share them with us all. If you've got anything, of course, I'm sure you have lots of other great ideas. So here's my number 3. because I live in Austria, which is a dessert-centric culture. Cake is like a really important part of life in Austria. If anyone ever comes to your house, it's prerequisite that you have made a cake. It's like a whole afternoon activity to go drink coffee and eat a cake in a Viennese cafe house. So I sometimes talk about it when I'm attracting new students, or even in a kind of context like where people don't, what is it that you teach, or what kind of yoga do you teach, especially if someone has a little bit of familiarity with yoga. So if they know the word Shavasana. So I like to talk about restorative yoga as, if you say, oh, Shavasana, that last pose at the end of yoga where you lie down and do nothing. If you think of that dessert, that's cake. Then restorative yoga, we explore all the different types of desserts that you can experience. So we're starting again from a place that the student is familiar with. They've done Shavasana before in other classes. And we talk about restorative yoga as just expanding on that one pose. So we're going to learn lots of different variations in different ways with a lot more props and attention that we can practice Shavasana, or variations of Shavasana, or other cousin poses of Shavasana. So I think that's a really nice way to kind of frame restorative yoga in the context of something that's already familiar and perhaps liked by some students. They often have positive associations with Shavasana because in a flow class, that's the point when you get to lie down and say, oh, thank God it's over. / exhaustion. So I want to know from all of you if you have any other better ideas, not better, but sort of additional ideas, ways to attract people to restorative yoga classes, because I'm so admiring all of the brave studios that are putting restorative yoga on their schedules, that we're getting the word out. By the way, Mom and I are planning on making a completely free online course, real simple, easy online course that's going to be called What is Restorative Yoga? So we hope that that's our one way of helping offer to the yoga community a little bit of education, because I think that that's where we are right now. We're on the edge of restorative yoga beginning to get understood in the wider yoga community, what it is. And one challenge, of course, that many of you know is that a lot of people are teaching a huge spectrum of things and calling it restorative yoga. So that muddies the waters even more. It's not a kind of solidified, codified term. So there's a lot of muddy stuff out there, a lot of movement being called restorative yoga. But hi, Patricia. Remember, and this I'm going to leave you with, I'm about to click end live video, the four sort of principles, the prerequisites for a restorative pose: still, dark, quiet, and warm. So number one is still. So if you're moving around a lot, in my opinion, it's not restorative yoga, okay? So I'm sending you guys a big namaste across the skies. I am now going to step away from my computer and actually do Shavasana. I've got my setup right there. I'm going to do Stonehenge Shavasana and wait for my sweet husband to come home from work. And I'm sending you guys a big, big namaste across the skies. Bye-bye.